I am a huge fan of authors that are prolific, that are putting out quite a bit of content that's high quality and their readers love it. And that goes with no exception with today's guest in USA Bestselling Thriller author Nick Thacker. Now, Nick and I met at Inkers Con this past year in Dallas, Texas. And I will tell you, it was probably love at first sight. I've just become best friends with this guy, love chatting with him, talking all things about writing and everything else between. But it is so funny to see all the things that this man does. You know, if it's not writing fiction books, it's writing nonfiction books. If it's not writing nonfiction books or fiction books, he's putting out a course about voice dictation, which I highly recommend you go pick it up. I've got a link inside the show notes. Go check it out. Really, really, really good. He also has another course on outlining. Heck, the man even came up with an email service for authors, author.email. What? Who does that? By the way, we didn't cover that inside this interview, so we might have to bring him back. And if you're interested in something like that, hit me up over on Discord at dalelinks.com/Discord. So without any further ado and any more gushing about Nick Thacker, let's get into the interview. You, my friend, are far beyond ridiculous in how many books you have published over the years. Do you know exactly how many you've done?
I've been called ridiculous, but I didn't know it was about the books. I thought it was just a bad thing like my wife tells me. I don't know. I'm somewhere around 40 something now.
Oh my gosh. And when was your first publication fired off?
2012, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, 2012. I wrote it for my granddad, or for my dad. My grandpa passed away. Yeah. And, we my dad and him and I used to all just kind of share paperbacks. And I thought, well, how hard could it be?
Right, exactly.
Years later. If I knew how hard it was, I wouldn't have done it. That's kind of me in a nutshell, right? Like, I jump in head first, let's go do it and be naive. Because if I knew how hard it was, I'm not going to do it. So I wrote the first one, and all of my amazing ideas that I thought were great, I couldn't fit them into that first book. So then that became the second book and the third book, and here we are.
What was that like? I mean, did you find it hard picking up momentum? Because I'm sure you didn't fire off 40 books in the same year.
No, it definitely took a while. Back then, it's kind of funny you asked that, because I'm literally, as we speak, well, not as we speak, literally, that means something. I'm working on a nonfiction book that I started 10 years ago, almost to the day. It'll be published 10 years from when I started. And it was the 21 Laws of Self-Publishing or something like that. I might change the name, but I was kind of riffing on the irrefutable laws of marketing or something, that book you've probably seen. And I started writing this thing back then, and it was almost like a journal of what I'm learning as I'm doing this, right? Never knowing that it was going to become a full-time career. And so here we are 10 years later, it's very much a full-time career, and I'm writing like another chapter of like, here's what 10 years later means. And so it's kind of interesting. It's really, actually really interesting, because I can get back in my head from 10 years ago. I remember now what it was like to do that first book. And I remember reading all the how-to books saying, you're writing fast if you write a book every year. You're doing it really well if you publish once every 18 months, because this is the traditional world that people were writing about. And so obviously that's not the way it is now. So I sped up over the years, right? I wrote a couple a year, and then 3 a year, and then 4 a year. And I don't know that it was all on purpose, Dale. It was all just kind of, here's the next book, and this is working. It's paying a utility bill or something. And so let's just do more. Let's keep doing what's working. Pretty soon left the day job, and then started doing this full time. Then my wife got to leave her job because of it. And so it's been working. And I'm not going to stop until Amazon kicks me out. So we'll see when that is. Could be any day now.
One could hope. I think a lot of listeners here on the podcast are probably going to wonder. They're going to say, what's that magical number that you were able to publish in order to leave your job and go full-time as an author?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not a number, because you can, lightning can strike. Certainly does. Andy Weir writes one book, and here we go. Don't plan to be Andy Weir is the best advice I can give any new authors. There's some that are going to be. There's some that are going to make it, but don't plan for that. Instead, plan for the long haul. Plan for the grind. Plan for being in the shit, for 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, whatever. But you're building a legacy. And if you can appreciate that part of it more than the immediate income stream, then you're going to be fine. Because your books, I always tell authors, your books don't do nothing. Your books aren't going to do nothing. $1 a month from books is not nothing. Yeah, it's not going to pay for a steak dinner, but it's not nothing. So having the mindset of, just keep doing it until that not nothing becomes something, and then something bigger and something bigger. And pretty soon you'll look back like me. I didn't plan any of this shit. It was all just, sorry, I don't know if this got that kind of podcast, but we can edit. I didn't plan any of this, right? I look back now and I'm like, man, my God, this is amazing. I can't believe I did that. Well, trust me, I planned less than anyone listening to this is planning their career. So if I can do it and just kind of fail my way forward, then anyone else can as well. You'll be fine.
What was the determining factor of you leaving your job to go into this full time? Was there a specific milestone that you were looking for to say, okay, I feel it's time that I can burn the boats and I can go about my business? Like, what was that like?
It was an ultimatum my wife gave me. I think we were sitting down. It was around New Year's, 2017. And I was currently, at the time I was working for a church. I was a worship director, which is why I cuss so much. So I was working in a church with all these church people. And so our season was kind of fall through Easter, right? Because we got Christmas and then Easter, that's the busy time. And then summer, just kind of a little bit more relaxed, at least in the worship department. And so it was running the 3 teams, big church, real busy job. Wasn't getting paid great, but it was a great place to work. And I loved it. And it was very secure, right? And at the time, I was making about twice as much as I was making at the church job. Like I said, I wasn't getting paid well at the church. So I was getting paid really well from the books. And my wife said, hey, Easter's coming up. That could be a good time for you to kind of cleave yourself from the church world. But you need to decide. Are you going to stay here or are you going to write books? You can't do both. You're starting to steal time from the other one. When you're writing, you're going to Starbucks in the middle of the afternoon, you're stealing time from the church. That's not fair, and vice versa. And she was, of course, right, like she is every now and then. And I had a good hard conversation. There were tears, and I was crying. They didn't care. They were like, "Yeah, see you, man." But I said, I know what the ceiling is here. I know what I can make here, and let's say add the 3% raise every year. It's just going to be the same, And they were like, "Yeah, that's true. It's a church." But I was like, "I don't know what the ceiling is over here." And I want to go find it. I want to see how much I can make. So it was a financial decision. It was money, but really the heart of that, if you want to unpack that, it was a business decision because I love the business of this all. I love the entrepreneurship aspect of it. Some writers don't. Some writers just want to have the Andy Weir book, or they want to get a traditional contract and then just kind of have them pay there's nothing wrong with that. I, however, really really love the control, the process, getting to be in the trenches with the designers, editors, whoever, bringing these books to life over and over and over again. I love it. That's why I started a publishing company to do it,
It's incredible, your work ethic, and it's absolutely amazing what you've been doing. And being prolific is nothing to sneeze at. So my thought is going to be, what are some of the things that you do to become efficient? How do you optimize your workflow to publish high quality books? Because there's going to be a lot of people out there that think, oh, he's just churning out a bunch of books, it's got to be trash. But
sure,
the proof's in the pudding. You've got very happy readers, and by the way, stellar looking covers.
Thank you. I used to do them all myself, but I have a guy that does them now. He's a good friend of mine, and he's just better. That is probably the first lesson in doing this full time, or doing it with any sense of business, is know when somebody can do it 80% as good as you and let them do it. Pay them well to do that. And the 80% number was from that church. A senior pastor friend of mine gave me that. He said, look, if somebody can do it 80% as good as you, let them do it. You've got other stuff you can be doing that only you can do. And what I've found over the years, kind of the flip side that he didn't know and that didn't teach me, is that most of the time when we think it's 80% as good as us, it's actually 100%. It's actually better. So Dave does 120% as well as I can. And so I hired him and just said, hey, you're going to do my covers now. You're my guy. So he does my covers. He does Conundrum Publishing's covers. But the whole point is that it's give the work to somebody who, they have to do it well, right? Don't hire, somebody that doesn't do well. But then pay them well and get yourself back to what only you can do. And then the next big lesson that I learned is, we all become productivity gurus. We all download these apps, and we got an Apple Watch that has all these things, and it's going to ding at me and when I'm supposed to be writing. It's not that none of that stuff works. It's that we get really, really good at being productivity gurus, but not actually being productive, right? Like I could just riff all of the apps and tools that I used from day one, from like getting my laptop in college and becoming a real person to like now. And every app that I use and the ins and outs of them and why they're great and why they're not and why I use, well, this one syncs with this one and Wanderlist was great. I could do that all day long, but none of that is going to tell you how much I've done or not done, right? And so unless that's our job, we should actually just do our job. Get an app, use it if that's helpful for you, figure out what works, what doesn't, and then just do the job. I think we get in our own head about it. I was replacing actually doing productive work with learning about productivity, which is a different thing. And I had to, for me personally, I had to get out of that. I had to force myself to, hey, I'm not going to feel motivated in the morning. That's where discipline comes in. I wake up, I've got this amount of motivation that I can spend however I want. Am I going to spend it learning about productivity so that I can do the job tomorrow? Or am I going to spend it just starting the project that I know I need to get into today? Because that motivation is going to be gone. And then all I'm left with is the discipline, the habit. Right. So that's a couple different tips in one, but maybe that's helpful for someone out there.
Yeah, it's something you and I have been chatting for, gosh, we met at Inkers Con last year in Dallas. Yeah. Yep. And I never really grasped. I knew who you were. We've crossed paths in so many instances, but you just launched a YouTube channel. And instantly I became a fan because of your delivery and some of the information that you're sharing. All right. So I'm talking about being efficient. I'm talking about optimizing things. Why YouTube, man?
I'm going to be honest with you, because you did YouTube and it's been working really well for you. And that's it. That's the whole reason. I'm like, I always knew that video is big and YouTube is the place to do it. And again, studying this stuff is not the same as producing this stuff. And I knew all the things, right? I'd read all the stats and the reports. Oh, YouTube's huge and you could have this huge audience. And I would dream. I would read these books about cracking the YouTube algorithm. And then I finally met you and I was like, well, I just got to do it. You just got to, I think you told me that. You were just like, just start a channel, just do something. And as you know, I haven't been consistent enough with the videos on YouTube. But that's only because I'm doing video. They're all on my hard drive. I'm doing something different, right? I'm doing kind of some secret projects and all that, but they'll end up on YouTube and I'll have that channel and I'll build that out. And that'll be another facet to my author career, or really the nonfiction side, the coaching side. And that's great. But I honestly, it's because of you, man. It's just an example of, I knew the thing to do, but I wasn't doing it. I needed a catalyst. I needed somebody to just kick me in the pants and say, dude, just start, just do it, fail forward, figure it out as you go. And so you gave me that. So that's really the answer. And I know I didn't pay Dale to ask that question, but Dale's awesome. That's what Dale does.
It just leads over to something, because you and I text each other like crazy, like a couple schoolgirls,
Every now and then there's an appropriate text that gets through too.
Yes, exactly. So let's go over, and I need you to tell the story about what led you to producing your most recent courses that you have, the video courses that you have. You have the one on voice dictation, and you have one, I'm not sure if it's released yet, one on outlining. So share a little bit about that backstory and, of course, what those courses entail.
I remember the moment it happened. I was driving and I'm serious, I don't know why I remember this, because I don't usually remember it, and it's not really that cool of a story, but I literally remember I was driving home from the liquor store, as one does when one is an author full time, and I was in the car at a stop sign, I think, and I got a text from you. You were like, dude, I don't know how you're popping out books every 2 weeks or whatever. You need to teach me. You just need to, because I know you dictate, and you just need to teach me how to dictate. And I was like, you know what? Dale the Catalyst, man, is just catalyzed me into, I don't know if that's a word. It's a word. I said it. It's a word.
We're running with it.
We're going to go with it. And he's done it again, because I've always known that I wanted to have courses. I wanted to do something, and I just didn't. I was like, I had this idea that it had to be fully formed and laid out all perfectly. And then I'm going to do step one. I'm going to post 3 times a day on Facebook, and it's all going to go here, but I can't start the posts until I have the course. I do that all the time with shit, right? Like I get in my own head. And I think we all do that to an extent, right? That's why we're here talking about productivity. And you finally just said, just teach me how to do it. And I thought, well, okay, what if I just recorded some videos, however long it takes, that would be like me talking to Dale saying, hey, here's how I dictate. I've got my recorder right here all the time, and I'm just in the car, and this is what I do. It doesn't have to be the end all be all, like, here, random author I've never met. This is what you have to do. You're on Windows. I'm on Mac, but I bought a Windows machine and I know all the apps. Like, I took all that away, and I said, I'm just going to show people what I do. And of course, it morphed into a really, really good course. And I say, of course, because as we do, we tend to be in our own head. And then when we actually get started, we realize we don't need to do all the stuff at once. We just need to do something. And then as we build it out, it becomes this really cool, big, powerful thing that we can show the world. And so that's what happened. Literally, you told me to do it, and I did it. And it's been taken off, man, and people really enjoy it. It's one thing I wanted to do is price them at a price point that was almost like a no-brainer, right? So $35, and then I always have a coupon code, so you get it for 20% off. It's like $28, and it's go at your own pace. It's all video. It's me talking to a computer just like this, and but I show you my process, and I really think it's a good process. Like I've actually thought about it a lot, and I've tweaked it for 10 years, and I've really, really gotten it down to something that works super well for me. And lo and behold, I'm not the only one it works for. So there's 400 or 500 authors now in the course that are experiencing the same breakthroughs that I had. And that's what I wanted. I was like, if I can give this information, the world needs more books. You'll hear me say that over and over again. It needs your book. It needs your entertainment. Whatever you've got, we want. Right? I'm not competing with you with your books. Your books aren't competing with mine, because if I like the kind of stuff that you write, I'm going to buy it. I'll buy mine. I'll buy yours. I'll buy everybody's. So anyway, so the competitive side, I'm like, we just need more books. So I want to get this information out to as many people as possible, because this is a really, really good way of producing a lot of books. The outlining course came second. It's out as well, same price. But it's how I outline specifically so that I can go dictate a book. You don't have to dictate the book. You can just write it with your little fingies, whatever. But it's how I outline. It's how I structure novels. And I got to the point where I was like, well, I've done this 40 times. I'm pretty good at it now. Like I have some things that I do that I didn't know that I was doing. And so I once again unpacked it and wrote it all out, got some nice slideshows, and then I just taught it. And I did it in person, live at a craft session for Superstars Writing Seminars here in Colorado Springs. It was a 3-hour course. And then I made the videos, and it's 50 videos, not 50 hours, 50 videos, probably 4 or 5, 6 hours total. But it's everything I know about outlining, and it's $35. So, it just goes to show I'm trying, I hope I'm trying to do this for the right reasons. I'm not trying to make a bunch of money on this. I want people to have the information from a guy who's been there. Like I know what it feels like to be facing the blank page, right? And so, anyway, I'm going to shut up. That's a lot more than you asked for, but that's where they came from. You, like always, all the good things in my life come from Dale.
Shucks.
So talk about my marriage next. It's probably your fault.
Yes. That's going to be revealed in the next interview. Do you foresee that you'll be doing any additional courses? And this is not me challenging you.
Well, since Dale just told me to make more courses, so those courses are at bookcareerinayear.com, which is sort of my homepage now for all of my Nick Thacker author, coach, author services guy, right? So I'm teaching, coaching, and that all lives there. So right now there's some free email courses, some like 20-week, how to do ads, how to do social media, how to do email. You go sign up for those for free. Obviously, you'll end up on my mailing list, and what I'll do is pitch you these courses. And yes, I will have more. I'm working on a web design course now, so authors can build their own website. I got Dave committed to doing a cover design course with me, so authors can make their own covers. Trying to put some objectivity back into this stuff, right? Like, obviously, design is a squishy, ethereal thing that we can't really pin down, but that doesn't mean there's good and bad covers. There are good and bad covers. So what makes them good, what makes them bad, and can we determine that, as an author who may not have an eye for design, right? So that's the goal with those courses. But yeah, so the whole point of this program, if you will, is Book Career in a Year is exactly what that sounds like. I want to show you how to design an entire author career writing genre fiction, commercial fiction in a single year. So it's everything that I would have wanted 10 years ago, just to go through, go at your own pace. I'll have a higher price, and you can access everything when it's all said and done. Or you can just go pick the course you want. $35 to learn how to do a website, $35 to learn how to do a cover. But the big course, the Book Career in a Year course, will just literally be a course of courses. I'll do video of me talking just like this, and it'll just be week 1, go watch this module inside this course, and then do it. Week 2, go watch this module in this other course and go do it. And so the whole point is all of it will work together, hopefully in a way that's really chronological. So, obviously we have to start writing a book. How do we do that? Let's talk craft. And then we have to market. We have to build websites, and it'll all be there. That's the goal. That's the ultimate goal. So I've been recording all these videos, and that's kind of where they are. So some of those will end up on YouTube as just tips and tricks, and some of them will be like, promotions that'll go back to the course. But all of the stuff I'm doing now is going to point back to that Book Career in a Year.
Nice. All right. So, man, we burn through time so fast. I always try to keep these interviews this is great. This is fantastic. I love guests like you that come in and I just ask a couple questions and you run with it. But I knew we'd be able to do this because this is a long time in the making here. I kept having to blow up your text. I was like, hey, you're going to do this interview? Yeah, I'll get it. I'm going to do this interview. But
I don't know how to use calendars, so I sent it back to you 5 times, and I was like, I don't even know. Let's just do it right now. Let's just get on the phone and we'll just make it happen.
Let's do it. So I always ask everybody this, and I want to ask you this because I know that you're going to come up with some great sage advice for any aspiring authors or self-publishers out there. What is one piece of advice that you have not shared so far in this interview that you would like to share with them?
Ooh, that I have not shared. I feel like I gave all my good stuff away. I only have 2 good things to say, and I said them both. Yeah, so one of the best pieces of advice I can give anybody at any level is don't ever forget how to celebrate the little victories. Or if you're not doing it, learn how to celebrate the little victories and then actually celebrate them. It's so helpful for our personal being, our mental health, our spiritual health, whatever you want to call it. Like it's so powerful to take a break and just sit in the fact that you just wrote a whole book and sit in the fact that you just published a book. And that it's real, it's in the world. And that's not a small thing, right? I mean, yeah, sure, I've done it 40 times. It starts to feel like rote work, right? It starts to feel mundane even, but it's not. This is a big deal. And so you, author, maybe you're getting your first book ready. Don't be afraid of it. First of all, publish the dang thing, right? It's going to suck. Don't worry. All of our books suck the first time. But just get it out there. But then celebrate that. Go out to a nice dinner, even if you're not making money from the book yet. Celebrate those little wins because long term, what you're gonna have hopefully is a career of doing this, and the last thing you want is for it to start to feel like a day job that you're just doing data entry. Sorry for all you data entry geeks out there if you love entering data, but I use that as like the worst possible job I could be doing is entering data. Chandler Bing, right? Like entering data into a computer all day, every day. Then it becomes that. It starts to feel like that. So we got to take a break. Celebrate your victories. I hope that's good enough. I once again talked way too long, but. That's a big piece of advice for me that was helpful for me early on.
You've been listening to the Self-Publishing with Dale podcast. Visit us at selfpublishingwithdale.com for more information on how you can level up your self-publishing business. Also, check out our growing video on demand service, chock full of free and premium content, when you head over to theselfpublishinghub.com. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a review on your preferred podcasting platform. We thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.